Não crie conflitos em si mesmo. Isso aqui é apenas uma passagem.
Tudo sobre o milagre do deputado.
Mas o tumor não está mais aí. E esse povo todo aí fora? Eu quero que você mande eles embora.
Eu sei que tem muita gente aqui precisando de ajuda.
Todo mundo falando disso, a cidade não fala de outra coisa.
Por que o senhor curou meu irmão e não me cura?
Não sou eu que curo, filho. É o careca.
Pede pra ele me curar, pai.
O senhor já sente a presença do Dr. Fritz?
Se você não pode dar ouvido a essas vozes, só vai piorar.
Não quero deixar a Lete e os meninos.
Por que a gente não pode ter uma vida normal? Zezé é um homem bom. O coração dele é bom.
Eu já disse, eu não sou médico, não. O médico é o Dr. Fritz. Longe de mim querer ganhar dinheiro em cima de quem tá doente.
Nem lembro a última vez que eu vi televisão assim com o senhor.
Não vi meus filhos crescerem porque eu tava trabalhando pra você.
Aceita. Essa é sua missão.
Foi você. Mas não parecia você, entende?
Eu não aceitei missão nenhuma!
Você tem que confiar em Deus.
Você casou com um homem e acabou com o outro. Mais da metade do tempo não sou eu que tô aqui, é o careca.
Tá cheio hoje, viu?
Vamos começar o nosso trabalho.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another lecture presentation of the United States Spiritist Federation that happens every Saturday at 11 a.m. Today, we are very pleased and honored to have Dr. Sonia Doi with us. But before I introduce her, let us do our opening prayer, elevating our thoughts, asking for the blessing and protection of the spiritual benefactors, for their assistance for our work of this morning. We ask them to help us, to guide us, to inspire us, so we can all together learn, understand, and more important, be able to put in practice on our daily lives all the teachings we're about to receive. We thank our Master Jesus for another opportunity of being reunited in his name. With our hearts full of gratitude, we ask permission to start our meeting. So be it. So, welcome, Dr. Sonia Doi. It's a pleasure to have you here with us this morning. Let me introduce you. Dr. Sonia Doi is currently occupying the positions of President of the Allan Kardec Spiritist Society of Maryland, U.S. Spiritist Medical Association, and International Spiritist Medical Association. She graduated in medicine by the University of São Paulo, Brazil, with specialization in endocrinology, and has over 25 years of research experience in the U.S. And she's a dear friend of all of us here at the United States Spiritist Federation. Welcome, Dr. Sonia.
Thank you so much, and it's a great pleasure to be here with all of you this morning. I hope everyone is doing well. And so I have prepared something about the perispirit illnesses and health, and I would like to share with you. We had some technical problems, so bear with me if the presentation gets a little broken in the middle. But anyway, so let's talk about a little bit about the perispirit. I think there was one slide before that talks about, yes, thank you, John. No, the next one. So this is our outline of how we're going to conduct the talk, talking first about what is Perispirit, the constitution of the Perispirit, relationship of the Perispirit with the soul and body, the mental body, the Perispirit and infirmities of the body, which is the basics of this talk, and sources of infirmities. So let's see the next one, please. In the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit of what is the Perispirit. The Perispirit is that subtle fluidic body of the spirit. It's always with the spirit and connects the spirit to the physical body. The soul is united with the body at the conception by the Perispirit. So the Perispirit is the connection. And the only death can break this connection. And I put there, this is of course in the Spirit's book. I'm quite sure that all of you already know that, but I put there in black that the spirit comes with the Perispirit when it's united to the body. And when the body decays and dies, the spirit leaves the body with the Perispirit. So that, keep this in mind. The Perispirit is always involving the spirit, meaning the spirit is the same, is correct. The spirit has always this fluidic body. Next one, please. So we're talking about this fluidic body of the Perispirits, and we learn in the book Genesis by Kardec, excuse me, that this fluidic body is formed by cosmic fluid. This is one of the most important products of the cosmic fluid, which condenses around an intelligent focus, which is the spirit. So if you read Genesis, there's a whole body of information about the cosmic fluid, and in there it talks about the cosmic fluid being the material that makes the Perispirit. The physical body also originates from the cosmic fluid. In essence, everything in the material world is formed by cosmic fluid. And the cosmic fluid then condenses in a different way in the material body than it is in the Perispirit. So it's just the elements of the cosmic fluid that condenses in a different form, in a different way. The next, please. So although the Perispirit and the physical body originate from the same source, the same cosmic fluid, they are of different forms of matter. They aggregate differently. So this is a very important concept. The Perispirit is matter. It's formed by the very, very fluidic form in the cosmic fluid, and elements that aggregate in a very different form than the dense material that we see here in our world. Next one, please. So what is continuing on the nature of the Perispirit, the nature of this fluidic body varies with the degree of moral advancement of the spirit. This is to say that it's not identical for all spirits in the same world. So here on earth, we are different spirits at different degrees of advancement, not too much, but a little different. And spirits that are more advanced morally have fluidic body that it's less dense than spirits that are in a lower level of evolution. Next, please. So sometimes the fluidic body is so dense that the spirit thinks that that they are still alive after discarnation. They feel like that perispirit body is the same as the material body, so thence it is. Next one. The difference from the perispirit and the spiritual and the physical body is that the physical body doesn't change according to our state of evolution, spiritual evolution. The perispirit changes, but the physical body is the same, basically the same elements aggregated the same way. Next, please. So here is another very important information. The spirit body is not a reflection of the physical body, although it resembles the physical body. It's not the perispirit that reflects the physical body, it's the other way around. It is the physical body that reflects the spiritual body, which in turn portrays the mental body that presides its formation. This is in the book Evolution into Worlds. And this now is introducing a concept of mental body. So the first part, I think most of you understand, because we remember that before we incarnate, our mentors, spiritual mentors, help us to design basically our perispirit, which will be the mold for the physical body that's going to be formed according to whatever is needed for our advancement. But here we learn from Andrea Luiz and in the book Evolution into Worlds that there's also a mental body, and that's the part of the perispirit that commands everything. So what is the mental body? The mental body is the part that condenses, that contains all the information that the spirit acquires during the whole journey in evolution. So everything that we learn, everything that we experience, all memories, everything is kept from incarnation to incarnation in the mental body. And it is the mental body that actually commands the formation of the perispirit, and also that will influence the perispirit in our incarnate lives. And we're going to see that in the next slides as we go. So you see there is a hierarchy, the spirit or the soul, and you remember that Kardec tells us that the spirits actually tell us in the Spirit's book that soul and spirit are two words for the same concept. And usually we use the word spirit for the discarnate spirits, and we use the word soul when the spirit's incarnated. Next, please. So what is the chain of command? As I showed before, the spirit is the source of everything because it's the intelligent part. And then the mental body that contains all the information passes that to the perispirit. And that part of the mental body makes a connection, is actually what we call mind, and makes a connection with the physical brain. And here you see the pineal gland, the pituitary, and the hypothalamus. All these parts of the brain are connected to the mind. And there's a whole thing here, a body of information that I probably don't have time to go deep into details, but the spirit through the mind transmits the impulses of thought to the physical brain via perispirit. And possibly this information is passed through a quantic interaction. Next, please. So under the command of the mind or the mental body, all cells, tissues, and organs of the physical body are integrated by the nervous system, and their functions are controlled by hormones. All this is also, this information is a condensed information, of course, and it comes from two books, Evolution in Two Worlds, and the other book is not translated to English, so I put the name in Portuguese, to be fair, but translated would be Between Earth and Heaven, and is also by Francisco Cândido Xavier and Spirit André Luiz. So in these two books, the information is that the command coming from the spirit, from the thoughts to the mind, passes on to the brain, physical brain, to the nerves, the neural system, and to the hormones and functions about through the hormones. And we're going to see this in a little more details. But here's a representation of the endocrine system and the several organs. And one of the most important here is the adrenal gland, which is responsible for the stress response. We're going to see this later. Next one, please. Okay, so not only the hormones that we know more in the endocrine system are active in that way, but also a whole network of neurohormones called neuropeptides that actually there's a lot of work that was done by Dr. Ken Spurt. She has already discarnated, she's in the spirit world. And she discovered that these neuropeptides have receptors all over the body, so they can interact with several organs in our body and regulate. So depending on our emotions, we are releasing, the brain is releasing some of these neuropeptides, and they are going to act directly in our organs, in our system. So if our emotions are emotions of happiness, joy, there are some neuropeptides that are going to be activated. And if our emotions are bad emotions, sadness, and so forth, so on, they're going to activate another type of neuropeptides. So all this, together with the hormones from the endocrine system, are regulated by the impulses that are coming from our thoughts. Next one. So here is a representation of how this works. The psycho, meaning mind, connecting with neural system, with the endocrine system, activating the glands, which actually now connects with the immune system, which is our defense system. This goes back and forth, activating in a chain of reactions and interactions and back. So depending on how we act or react, this cycle is a continuous cycle, permanent, staying there for days, weeks, years, whatever. Or we can break the cycle. It depends on our thoughts. Next slide, please. So this interaction was discovered by some scientists that gave a long name to a new field of science called psychoneuroendoimmunology. Next slide, yeah. And depending on how we react, we might have an adaptive response and then create a healthy status, or we may react in a way that we dysregulate the system, and then we have disease. Next slide, please. So we're talking about the endocrine system acting on the immune system, and now more than ever, I think everybody's learning about the immune system because of COVID-19. And this is very important because depending on how we are reacting, we may improve the response of our immune system, or we may actually make our system incapable of reacting against invaders like the virus that's going around. But also, the immune system is not only protecting us from bacteria and viruses, but is also protecting us from development of cancer. So if you see on the next click, here is a representation of a cancer cell, which is the gray cell there, and the green cells, which are immune cells, kind of trying to attack, trying to control these cancer cells. So think of it. Our emotions, our thoughts can regulate this system for good or for bad. So if we have a positive attitude, we are every day commanding our immune system to fight against the development of cancer, because our cells have that instinctive type of development. But if we are in a dysfunctional mental state, we might block this defense system, and that's where we have more chances, more risks of developing cancer. Next, please. So let's talk a little bit about sentiment and thought. And let's read this paragraph from, again, Evolution in Two Worlds, because it has very important information there. The particle of thought, which is produced by the spirit, although alive and powerful, is passive before the sentiment gives it form and nature for good or for evil. First important information there. Andrea Luiz is talking about the particle of thought. So we all think of thought as like a vibration, an energy, but he says particle of thought. And we're going to see this a little bit later, but think about the concept of energy and matter, the concept of quantum physics, and that's how thought behaves, okay? Sometimes just as a vibration, but it can act as a form, and we're going to see the consequences of that. So while the thought is passive, it is passive before we have a sentiment that gives it form. That's the material part of it. In nature, for good or for evil. So let's say I think about a person. This is just a thought. Soon after, I have a sentiment about that person. I love the person. So that gives the thought a form, a good form. But if I don't like the person, if I have a bad sentiment about that person, I'm creating a thought that has the evil nature. Okay, next, click. So our thoughts, animated by our sentiments, modulate how our organism acts and reacts. Next. In the book Missionaries of the Light, the instructor talking to Andrea Luiz, instructor Alexander, says, the sick body almost always indicates a sick mind. Next click. So what is he saying this? The mind is the one that generates thoughts and sentiments that directly modulates the function of the vital centers of the perispirit, which then are reflected on the physical body. So the physical body is a reflection of what's going on in the mind. That's what he's saying there. The sick body almost always indicates a sick mind. Next. So illnesses can only be completely understood if we take in consideration the functions of the perispirit, its dynamic and constant interactions with the physical body and with the spirit, its vital centers, its role in the organization and support of physical life. So all this we're going to see in the next slides. So conventional medicine still does not have the resources to capture the existence and the functions of the perispirit. So we're hoping that in the near future, medicine develops that ability. So we can see, since the disease is already incubating in the perispirit, if we had the resources, we could probably make a diagnosis earlier. Next slide. So here are a representation of the vital centers that some people called energy centers, power centers, or chakra. And the perispirit is governed by 7 vital centers, which branch into plexus and vibrate in harmony with each other through the controlling power of the mind. So it's the mind that controls all these vital centers. Next click. So the perispirit is a vehicle of electric cells, which we can define as an electromagnetic field in which thought vibrates in a closed circuit. This is again in the book in Portuguese, Between Earth and Heaven. And here's the representation of the 7 vital centers: crown, cerebral, laryngeal, cardiac, gastric, splenic, and genesic. So the perispirit is the vehicle for all the vibrations that runs from all these vital centers. Next one. So the perispirit establishes the interaction with the physical body under the command of these vital centers. Because remember that the vital centers are in the perispirit, but they make connections with the neural system. And the neural system is in the physical body. So that's how they relate. That's how they send the information from the perispirit to the physical body. The crown center, which is the top one, expresses the forces received from the incarnate spirit, from the spiritual realm, and the cosmic fluid. That's a very important information also. First of all, the crown center is the commander of all the other centers, okay? It's the one that's directly in connection with the spirit, with thoughts that receive the thoughts of the spirit. And as it says there, is this crown center in the perispirit that perceives not only the emanations, the thoughts of the incarnate spirit, but also from the spiritual realm, meaning any other spirit, good or bad, are going to communicate with us, are going to share their thoughts through the crown center and the pineal gland, which we're not going to talk about today. Also, the crown center is in the connection with the cosmic fluid. That's why passes are applied up there in the crown center. The cosmic fluid is basically, it's more perceived and received through the crown center, and then it disperses through the whole body. And that's how we can feed ourselves from the cosmic fluid. Next, click. So the crown center is the first one that receives all these thoughts and energy, and then transfers them all to all other centers, and through the organic plexus to the nerves, thereby moving this energy through the entire physical body. So that's how, good or bad, the energy comes and is distributed to the whole body. Next, please. So here's the information from Dr. Jorge Andrea. The book's also only in Portuguese, not translated yet. It's called Enfoque Científicos na Doutrina Espírita. He was a medical doctor and spiritist that wrote several books, very interesting books. And in this book, he says that before manifesting in the physical body, illnesses have already affected the perispirit and altered the function of the vital centers. So it's there already. Next, please. And as the illness is already implanted, let's say, or developing in the perispirit, not yet manifested, it shows signs of it in the aura before it's detected in the physical body. So for those who can see aura, they can see the signs of disease. They might be able even to make a diagnosis. It's very interesting. I read once in a book talking about Edgar Cayce, and there was a story that once a lady comes with her sick son and knocks on on Edgar Cayce's door, asking him, because he had already that people knew him for his abilities, mediumship abilities, and she comes with her son asking for his help. And he didn't want to do anything, but he looks at the boy and he says he has, and I don't remember now, the disease, pneumonia or something like this. But he was able, probably, I think two possibilities. He probably could see the aura of the child and see what the disease was through the perispirit, or he was informed by another spirit who could see the aura, the perispirit already, the disease in the perispirit of this child. So the aura is a projection of the perispirit. It shows. And many people have heard about auras, and aura can change depending on our state of mind, right? So let's see the next one. So this is how the spirits working in the realm of cure can diagnose and work on healing according with the merit of each person. So when we have spiritual healing, spiritual cure, this is how the spirits, the benefactor spirits, were working on that. They see through our perispirit what is wrong, what is affected, and they might be able to work on that. And of course, all this depends on the merit of each one. Next, please. its formation. This is diabetes. We, in our present incarnation, we may not be able to complete there, the more damage it will do. And here I just put 2 examples of scientific articles showing that depression, for example, the first one, there's a relationship between depression and coronary disease. There's also scientific evidence of bipolar depression with type 2 diabetes. So next one, please. Surrounding influences. This is important for us to keep in mind. The energy around us will affect our minds and well-being the same way that images, sounds, noise, odors do. So everything in our environment, everything can impact our perispirit. Vibrations emitted by others in the surrounding area will be sensed by our perispirit and will affect our state of mind. So people that are not vibrating good energy will affect us. And we can see this. If you go into an environment of people who have bad attitudes, bad thoughts, we are going to feel that. We call it this is a heavy environment, heavy vibrations. And next click. In the opposite is true too. If we are surrounded by harmonious vibrations, we will feel relaxed and healthy and happy. So depending on where we are, those vibrations are not good for us, are not impacting our perispirit in a good way. So better look for a good environment. Next, please. Can we change? So almost all infirmities, even those that appear to be fortuitous, that happens randomly or incidentally, are directly or indirectly related to the individual way of thinking and acting in the past or in the present. So it's not only attitudes from the past, but the present. But can we change? Science has also shown, and Andrea Luiz preceded what science demonstrated, that genetic program can be changed by good or bad behavior, mental state projected on bioforce or units of psychosomatic force in the cytoplasm of the cell can change the program of the cell. So think about it. We can change things. If we are having a disease or something that is affecting our body, our thoughts, our attitudes will act through the perispirit on those organic cells and might change the way, the behavior of that cell. Next, please. So overall, all physical or mental infirmities are opportunities of spiritual growth. Next, we can confront pain and serious illnesses without suffering. If we understand the divine laws, if we study and understand, and if we exercise resignation. Many times, the infirmity manifested in the physical body is the process of elimination of deep, serious wounds from the soul, is the way that we cleanse, is a cleansing mechanism. Infirmities help us to purify our soul, our spirit. Is a mechanism, is a cleansing mechanism provided by the divine that we can use through several incarnations. Or if we learn fast, we can actually shorten that. But through this process, every time we can, every incarnation, we can improve, we can cleanse our perispirit until we actually come to be a pure spirit. And when that happens, next slide, please. When that happens, we'll have a bright, beautiful perispirit, absolutely clean and pure as Jesus. Until then, let's keep working. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sonia. Wonderful presentation. So many things come to our mind here. So many questions. I saw in the comments that someone, Marcia Bennett, already suggested that we have a meeting with you to talk about, to go into more details, talk about the pineal gland, and I'm sure that we can schedule something, because really there is a lot to learn more on this topic, and it's always a fascinating topic, right? So thank you all. We have some questions. We have time for some questions, okay?
Okay. It's just, I just want to say that there's so much information. Most of this coming, of course, Kardec makes the introduction to all of the concepts that are most important for us to understand. But then André Luiz, the books of André Luiz brings a lot of information that are very, very important. Most of it is in the Evolution into Worlds. And then, as we put all this together, it's a huge volume of information, as you said.
Yeah, just a side comment here. Between Heaven and Earth is translated. It's translated into English. You can find.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah, yes. It's a great book.
My apologies.
Between Heaven and Earth.
I didn't follow with the translations. Okay.
Actually, all the books from André Luiz's Life in the Spiritual World are translated into English now. The 15 books. So that's fantastic.
Great. I didn't get with the translations. Thank you.
So let's go to the questions. I understand you said the perispirit varies with the degree of moral advancement of spirits. Can you give an example of how this is evidenced here on Earth?
We don't see that. We are talking about perispirit, right? How the perispirit varies. And we cannot basically have evidence here on Earth unless we are able to see the perispirit of one person or another. So this comes as information from the spirit world, and we have to just believe and understand. Or for those who can see the perispirit might see, but there are tenuous differences. What Kardec's talking about, this is in the book Genesis, and he's talking about the way the elements form the perispirit. There's a lot of information also in the Medium's book about the perispirit. And what they say is that the example is that on Earth, the perispirit is formed with the elements that are present in this planet. If you go to another planet, the perispirit there is formed in a different, with different elements. It's the same cosmic fluid, but they are kind of aggregated in a different way in other worlds. Here on Earth, this might be, the difference might be that the person that is morally more evolved has a perispirit that is lighter, that is more subtle than others. So as you pass into the spirit world, as we live here, the transition is a little easier because the perispirit is more subtle, more developed.
Thanks. Another one here from our friend Daniel Santos, from a scientist to another scientist. Thank you, Dr. Sonia. In your opinion, what will be the difference between the perispirit and the Akashic Records belief? Meaning, Akashic Records is a compendium of all universal elements, thoughts, words, emotions, and intent ever to have occurred in the past, present, or future, for those who didn't know what the Akashic Record means.
Well, I cannot even comment on this because I don't have knowledge to make a comment of the Akashic records. Danielle, I'll learn with you later.
Okay. So another one here. Can you talk a little more about how the infirmities are a cleansing mechanism provided by the divine, by our friend Elenir Bernardis?
Hi, Elenir. Yes. As we, this is very complex, but as we learned, the thoughts that are brought, created by the spirit, depends pretty much on the evolvement, on the degree of evolution of that spirit. So if that spirit is not very evolved, has created evil thoughts and low, inferior types of attitudes, this spirit will create as Kardec, as Andrea Luiz says, a form, a thought form that impacts the perispirit, and that will transmit to the body. As we become sick, whether this is an atonement from past lives or created from this life, we are suffering in the body is suffering, the spirit feels the pain, the spirit is learning through that experience the effect of the cause. So once we experience the pain, experience suffering, and know what is the cause, it's almost like, oh, now I understand. I don't need to keep this in my perispirit. As I understand, as I act in a good way, and that's a big difference. The cleansing works when we resign, when we almost like accept the suffering. We are not revolted. We are not blaspheming against God for that disease. So that makes us better, makes us understanding, makes us understand the pain of others. Say we are now atoning something that I did to others, not that I did to my own body, but I did to others. And now that guilt, that remorse is creating like an ulcer in my perispirit, which then is transmitted as a disease to the body. We, in our present incarnation, we may not be able to completely make sense of that, but as a spirit, when we are the kind of detached from the body, we have a better understanding. We understand that this suffering is an effect of that specific deed, whatever I did in the past or I did previously. As we understand this process, we are liberating. We are pardoning. We are what I would say. I think I'm missing the word here. We let ourselves I cannot think about it doesn't come the word now, but we are forgiving ourselves. Okay, as we forgive ourselves, that part of the perispirit that was creating a wound is coming out. It's almost like it's a process where the problem is transferred from the perispirit to the body, And as the body goes, the perispirit doesn't have that anymore. It's almost like that. But it needs the spirit to realize where that pain is coming from. It needs the spirit to resign and not to be revolting against that. It needs the spirit to forgive itself. Okay, so that's how we cleanse. We get rid of that process, of that thing.
I think the subject could be a talk in itself, right?
Yeah.
So from our friend Bob O, sentiment gives a particle of thought a form. Love gives it a good form. Thinking of Valentine's Day tomorrow, happy Valentine's Day for everyone. How can we help a friend struggling with physical illness?
Hi, Bob. Good to see you here. So, happy Valentine's to everyone too. But how can we help friends struggling? And this is another point. When somebody is suffering, it's not only atonement for the person who is going through that process. It's an opportunity that divine gives to people around to exercise love, to exercise charity. So we can always help in so many ways, not only the physical way, but mostly giving support to the person. First of all, talking to the person, trying to bring them light, trying to help them not to feel guilty, trying to help them to go inside themselves and find out what is actually there inside. The person or ourselves, many times, we cannot make a connection. If you think about, oh, I have this disease, why do I have this disease? And you go and you cannot usually make that connection. Oh, I did this in the past, that's why I have diabetes. That's not the way it works, because, thank God, we forget what we have done in the past. But through examining ourselves, we see our faults. We see what we are not doing actually according to the divine laws. And through that, we can kind of perceive, if I'm not doing this right, probably I was not even doing this, I was doing this even worse in the past. So maybe it's related to that. It doesn't matter what is related to. Every time we try to improve ourselves, we try to work in accordance to the divine laws, we are improving ourselves. There is no doubt about it. So by talking to our friends, trying to give them peace, trying to help them think about themselves and how they can improve themselves, and give them support, saying, I'm always here. It's always a good thing. It's always a way to help. They might have others, but...
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's always a challenge, right? But
Yep.
So from RK, then, can we heal ourselves by changing our thoughts and acts, maybe through meditation?
Absolutely. We can always help ourselves. And that's when healing comes from. The word healing doesn't exist in Portuguese. It's hard to translate into Portuguese, but it's very helpful in English. Cure is when you cure a body, the disease, by surgery, by medication, whatever. The disease apparently disappeared. Many times, if you did not work in the soul, in the perispirit, in the thoughts, in the mind, the disease is still there and will reappear. And this concept is not only in the spirit's books, but is also in a scientific compendium of integrative medicine. many times the disease apparently disappeared, is apparently cured, but inside we're still sick. And that is going to show again with the same disease or another way. So how can we heal ourselves? There are many, many different ways. Meditation is one way, and there are several scientific papers showing that meditation can help in improving health, in improving even the treatment, response to treatment in cancer, in some other diseases. So meditation is one, and there's prayer, passes, all that. There's so many ways, but keep in mind that always starts with our will to improve ourselves. There's no other way.
Thank you. So, long one here. You explained that everything is connected, thoughts, feelings, emotions. You also mentioned specifically that there is a connection between emotions and neuropeptides. Can you explain further how the neuropeptides work with our emotions and how they impact our ability to stay healthy?
That's another treaty. It's huge. These neuropeptides, neuropeptides, they are like little proteins, pieces of proteins that are produced in the brain, and they circulate through the blood to the body. So there are several of them. I would not even dare to say all the names because it won't help us here. What is important is, depending on our emotions, our feelings, we are triggering one type of one class, let's say, of neuropeptides, or another class of neuropeptides. They are, say you are very happy and you are releasing some of these happy neuropeptides. They go through our bloodstream, and they connect with cells because they have receptors. So they connect with cells in our body, and they act through several different ways, mechanisms, biological mechanisms, to make that cell work. So if we are releasing, if we're having good emotions, releasing good neuropeptides, our cells are working in balance, are working productively. The other way around, if we have bad emotions, if we are sad, depressed, whatever, the classes of neuropeptides that are going to be released are different. And they will impact not only the whole body, they all impact the brain itself. So that's where we can have mental disorders. And if you have a tendency or propensity for a certain disease, so you have propensity to diabetes, but you're not diabetic, as you start releasing those, having those bad emotions, releasing those neuropeptides related to bad emotions, they're going to impact cells. They're going to release other hormones from the endocrine system, and they're going to then trigger diseases like diabetes. So I think many people who have diabetes remember the people who have diabetes after a very stressful situation. For example, a person that had a huge emotional problem, family problem, after that they developed diabetes. Or after a big impact, for example, an accident, whatever, they develop diabetes. So that's the stress, that's the emotions involved in that moment, in that experience that triggered the disease.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Sonia. Very interesting. A lot of things we still have to learn and study, right? So from Daniel Santos again, what is the relationship between the homeopathic and allopathic treatment in regard to the perispirit?
Hi, Danielle. Okay. I'm going to enter an area that has a lot of discussion. Well, allopathic medicine, I think everybody knows, is just a medication that we take. Let me make a little comment here before I go on. When we are talking all about this, about disease and everything, some people may think that, oh, we are against medication. No, we are not against medication. Medication is needed for the body, okay? But if we don't heal the spirit, the perispirit, if we don't work there, the body will get disease again. That, the same, or another one. So, yeah, medication is there, but we need to work in our spiritual realm too. So getting back to homeopathic medicine, there's a lot of controversy there. There's even, and I'm not even talking about the spiritists, but physicians, especially the allopathic physicians, are completely against. They don't believe in homeopathy. But what I learned, and this is, you know, not that I have a huge knowledge on homeopathy, but what I learned is that, and once I heard this from Dr. Goswami, he gave a very good concept. What I learned is that homeopathy is the extract of some plants. They are diluted sequentially millions of times. Every time this is diluted in water. So the essence of that plant is now in a almost indetectable way. It's, say, one molecule in a liter of water. And how can you explain that that molecule is going to do something to your body? But we have evidence. There's so many people who were cured or were, got better with homeopathic medicine. So something happens, right? And there are papers showing that, no, it's not just the placebo effect, but it is the homeopathy medication that is actually helping. So Dr. Goswami, when he was talking about this, he said, remember that by every dilution, they take the extract and shake with the water, and then dilute again, shake. Every time there's a shaking. Every time you shake that, the properties of the plant, the extract, are mixing with the water, and that influences or changes the properties of the water. And then what you take at the end is actually the molecules of water that have been changed. So let's think a little bit about our fluidic water, that we receive the vibrations of the spirit world into the water. Think about all the experiences of Dr. Emoto with the water. So I think it would be the same. These molecules absorbed by the body, and that goes one part that I didn't touch much during my talk, but now I have an opportunity to say, it's not only the perispirit that acts over the physical body. The physical body also reacts and affects the perispirit. So in this way, the molecules that are absorbed from these homeopathic medications or fluidic water will affect our body and will then kind of share the response with the perispirit. The same thing, if I could just 1 second say, is the how acupuncture works. acupuncture works on the meridians, which are kind of related to the what we call vital centers or chakras. And so that's actually apparently is working through our body, because the needles are, stuck in our physical body. But in essence, they are activating points in the perispiritual body.
Okay, thank you. So fascinating, and I see by the comments here that people are really enjoying this conversation. Okay. So we have one last question here. So infirmities result from our thoughts, as they are activated by our feelings and emotions. But infirmities also offer a cleansing mechanism to our sick soul. Can you help us better understand the paradox of this statement?
Okay. So again, this, as I said, is complex. So the thoughts, feelings, let's think about the spirit. The spirit is who created the thoughts and who have the emotions. That is what actually goes through the perispirit to our body and makes our body sick. How is that a mechanism of cleansing? Is what I was explaining before. As we do this process, as this process happens, if we have awareness, if the spirit is aware of the process, if our attitude is an attitude of resignation, is an attitude of understanding, we are helping for the perispirit to get rid of that source of disease, to that source, that what André Luiz calls area of remorse. So our bad thoughts, our bad emotions from this incarnation or from previous incarnations that are now created in the perispirit and reflect in the body, depending on our attitude against it, will work as a cleansing mechanism. But if we are revolting, if we are not resigned, if we are not accepting this, what is our attitude? We get even more depressed. We get angry. We revolt against God. Why am I sick? Why God is sending this to me? If we don't understand the mechanism, we have all these reactions against it. That's not cleansing. That's not working. That's not going to liberate, to help the perispirit to get rid of it. So it depends on how we go through the experience. Either we accept the experience and we make a good use of this experience, or if we don't make a good use, we have to come back again and again and again until we are able to understand. Just a few examples, and I see this very often. I see on TV, for example, athletes, the para-athletes, who have no limbs and all this, and they are happy, they're competing, doing things. So those are souls that didn't care about it. So in the next incarnation, like Divaldo says, they cannot walk now, they will walk in the spirit world. They will walk. They're recovering for the next incarnation. For this incarnation, sometimes you see a person who has cancer, say, and the person learns that there's no cure. So there are two attitudes. Once you are revolted, you are sad, depressed, blah, blah, blah. The medication doesn't work well. The disease gets worse and worse and worse. The other attitude is, okay, I have a disease. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to take all the medications I can, but I'm also going to work to do the best I can for my soul. And I see so many people that say, okay, I have cancer, but I'm going to work now. I'm going to create an association for cancer. I'm going to help others. I'm going to work in charity. And there are several scientific papers showing that charity helps. Charity improves health, improves mental state. So everything depends on how we react. If we react in a positive way, that is how we are working together with the cleansing mechanism, so that for the next incarnation, our perispirit is not carrying that anymore. We are done with it. But if we revolt, we are creating maybe a bigger problem.
Thanks. Okay, we have one light question here. I hope you can answer this one. Could you please explain, from Gregory Bennett, could you please explain the significance of the neurons in the gut?
Hi, Gregory. Neurons in the gut, yeah. There's a lot of new papers coming, I think, through the last 5-7 years or so, talking about this topic. There are neurons there that not only are sensors, but they also release peptides that connect with the brain, and they work in so many different ways. I don't want to extend myself, but there are peptides that sense the amount of food that we eat, the type of food that we eat, and then they help in releasing hormones for digestion and this and that. So there are interactions between these neurosensors in the gut and so many other different parts of the body. So it's just, you know, how the body interacts. All the parts of the body are interactives. If you have a disease in one place, that disease is affecting, say you have an ulcer in the foot, but still, whatever is there is acting and going through the whole body and affecting other organs and affecting our state of mind.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sonia. I think it's our time. So once again, thank you for the wonderful presentation, so much knowledge that you brought to us. As Kirsten said earlier, we have to rewatch this lecture to learn more and to study it again, because there is a lot of information there. We really appreciate. We want to invite everyone to come back next week, next Saturday at 11 a.m. We are going to have our friend Álvaro Mordecai from Brazil. He's going to talk about the importance of Paul's letters in current days. For those that have seen Álvaro before here with us, he has been with us a couple of times. You know him. You know that he brings all the knowledge from the Jewish traditions, and he's Jewish, and he was raised in the Jewish belief and the Jewish tradition, and he's a scholar in bringing the Jewish knowledge to Spiritism. So you're all invited for next week, 11 a.m. The importance of Paul's letters in current days. And to end our talk, I would like to invite Dr. Sonia Doi to do our final prayer.
Before, I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to share. As we do this, we are always learning. It's always a good opportunity for us also to learn. So thank you all to have who have been watching this. Thank you. So at this moment, with our hearts full of gratitude to the mentors, to the spiritual benefactors that were here with us, we thank our divine creator, for giving us all these opportunities through incarnations to perfect ourselves, to give us the knowledge through our Master Jesus and all the benefactor spirits who bring us information that help us to think, help us to learn, help us to realign ourselves with the divine laws so that we can have a productive path in evolution. Let's also ask our mentors, our Master Jesus, to always help us, bless us, so that we are strong to confront the challenges, the infirmities that comes to us during the incarnation experience, so that in the future we can be a better soul, a better spirit. Help us, God, and help our brothers and sisters around the world. And so be it.
Thank you all. See you next week.